Satisfied with the decision made by the Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Item 2.0. Do we have a approval of today's agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions and comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Item 2.0 has passed. Item 3.0, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the October 20th, 2025 meeting?
Chair, I have a few comments.
Absolutely.
Yes?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. It's very minor, just to call out that since our October 20th meeting was not officially 1 month ago, I believe the minutes should read in several instances where it references a 1 month deferral, should read 1 meeting deferral.
Please note that the meeting minutes be updated to state deferrals until the next traffic and parking meeting. Yes. Great catch. Any other comments?
I'm good, thank you.
Would you mind making a motion to approve the minutes with those edits?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 3.0 has passed. We have 3 people signed up for public comment. I know we had a few others trickle in. Is there anybody else that would be added, like to be added? Please sign your name, if you don't mind. During the public comment period, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. When you do come up, please hit the microphone, state your name for the record. We do ask that public comment be germane to the items on the agenda for today's meeting. Once the public hearing has been closed, no additional comments will be heard unless the public hearing is officially reopened. With that, we'll have Frank Rowan coming to speak on item 7.2. If you don't mind, hit the microphone, state your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Frank Rowan. I commented last month in opposition to item 7.2, the paid parking request, and I'd like to reiterate that The minutes obviously try to boil 2 minutes down into a few words. I'd like to say a little bit more strongly that the analysis section in the staff analysis memo does not actually do any analysis at all, does not talk about pros, cons, any justification. The staff analysis this month actually had some more information. It provides commission authority, and it says that there needs to be a determination upon the basis of an engineering and traffic investigation that the installation of parking meters shall be necessary to aid in the regulation, control, and inspection of the parking of vehicles. I do not see that anywhere in the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we'll have Garth Shaw speaking on item 7.2. Please make sure your microphone on and state your name for the record. Hit the button.
Check.
There you go. 2 minutes.
My name is Garth Shaw, and I'm a former board member of the Music Row Neighborhood Association. I've lived on Music Row for 29 plus years at historic Spence Manor, located on 11 Music Square East. Our street has been turned into one lane, so Music Circle North is and has always been our overflow parking. I feel like we shouldn't have to pay to park where we live, and musicians and songwriters shouldn't have to pay to park where they work. As a sidebar, the street lamp in front of the Musicians Union at 11 Music Circle North has been burned out for over 6 months, and the half block between there and the corner of Music Square East has never had street lamps. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Jill Moody, speaking on item 7.2. Please state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes.
Yep, thank you. My name is Jill Moody. I'm the Director of Songwriter Relations for the Nashville Songwriters Association. Thank you all for your time today. Just wanted to reiterate that the parking around Music Row is essential to songwriters, musicians, artists. It has been since 1954 when Owen Bradley opened the first recording studio. The parking has always been free. It has impacted our business. We have workshops every Tuesday that are free to songwriters, other musicians. Our attendance has drastically went down since folks have to pay for parking, as is our songwriter rooms. So any further expansion of the paid parking outside of Zone 4 is going to continue to affect our business at NSAI, as well as the businesses in the surrounding area. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Dave Pomeroy, speaking on item 7.2.
I have a new version of our petition for the commission here. It's 1,804 signatures.
Sir, can you just repeat that on the microphone when you sit down, please? Can you repeat what you just said on the microphone so the public watching can hear what you said?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
And for clarification, commissioners, there was something included in our packet that listed the petition and the number of people what was the date that this was pulled today? This morning.
That was from this morning.
And then there's comments on the back as well, just for perspective on what was brought up. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you for
Please go
sharing.
ahead.
My name is Dave Pomeroy. I just turned in a petition with 1,804 signatures against the proposal. Despite the many recent changes in our city, Music Row remains a vital business-oriented area that defines what makes Nashville a magnet to the worldwide entertainment industry. Numerous recording studios, record labels, music publishing companies, union offices, artist managers, booking agents, and many other music-oriented businesses are centered in this neighborhood. For example, the Nashville Musicians Association has more than 2,000 dues-paying members and only 24 parking spaces in our lot, with 5 spaces out front that are used constantly with frequent turnover. The musicians who work under our contracts earned more than $11 million last year and should not be penalized for coming in to pick up a check or to come rehearse or record for 5, 8 hours or more. To unilaterally impose paid parking on this unique neighborhood that has been driving Nashville's music industry is simply wrong and would have serious negative consequences on the businesses of Music Row. The music industry contributes billions to Nashville's economy. This is one of the last places on earth where creatives can come and somehow find a path to success through hard work, determination, and networking, which happens every day on Music Row. That's the Nashville way, and we can't afford to drive the next generation away with this kind of disrespectful penalty for following your dreams. For 75 years, Music Row has played a very significant role in the increased revenue Nashville sees from the entertainment industry. This unilateral move by NDOT feels like punishment for the very same businesses and people that made Nashville into Music City and would have very negative consequences for our businesses and residents. This proposal should not be approved by Metro Nashville government. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich Ehart, here to speak on item 7.2. You have 2 minutes. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you. What I have to say is very similar to what Jill and Dave has already said. I'm going to try not to repeat too much of it, but Music Row is a very unique part of Nashville. It's not filled with bars and restaurants like Lower Broad. It's where the creative people come to do their work. Typically, people can expect to work in a studio or a writing session for as much as 14 hours a day, 3 to 5 days a week. And many people that work 9 to 5 in the offices have to utilize street parking because a lot of the buildings there only have 2 or 3 car spots, so everybody else has to park on the street. As a result of the proposed paid street parking, I can only visualize it resulting in frustration and annoyance, which could potentially lead businesses to move out from Music Row, setting up shop outside the cities, essentially destroying the heart of Nashville's entertainment industry that's been beating for over 70 years. I don't think that's what we're trying to accomplish here, and so we need to consider the potential damage of a decision like this. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Next, we have Gabriel Tangu. Excuse me for that. Please state your name for the record. You're here to speak on item 6.1.
Yes, my name is Gabriel Tangu, and I am here to speak on behalf of Council Member Jacob Coopin, who could not be here today. In 1995, 2nd Avenue was switched from a one-way to a two-way traffic pattern. The department responsible for this project stated that there was plenty of public notice, but pushed the project through despite stakeholders using the tools of government at their disposal to oppose it. It took until 2002 with support from Metro Planning and then Mayor Purcell to reverse an unpopular and unsupported change to the infrastructure. Now we're talking about making 2nd Avenue two-way again. We want to thank NDOT for putting a pause on these changes for now and for their commitment to improving public safety across the county. That being said, we have worked with and advocated for other projects that are in the interest of public safety that are still incomplete. We hope that NDOT will refocus their efforts on these projects that have a larger impact than 2nd Avenue traffic flow changes. Switching gears, also on the agenda is proposed paid parking in Music Row. Despite not being in his district, the CM himself sat here last commission and opposed this alongside the Nashville Musicians Union and the Nashville Songwriters Association International. He did so as someone who went to Belmont and spent years in the music industry, leading him to that area of town quite often. He questioned the logic of putting paid parking in an uncongested area frequented by artists who call Music City home. The impression that we both left with was that NDOT was going to put paid parking there because they said they would, and they were following their plans that don't make caveats. We understand that streets aren't free to build and maintain, and collecting fees is a way to ensure that they are. But the question here remains, if the department won't listen to the people of the city, who will they listen to? There are some other items on this agenda, particularly items 5.5 and 7.4 that the CM is concerned about and is working with NDOT on. We both appreciate both this commission and the department for their consideration. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate you. That will conclude the public comment section of this meeting. We'll move on to item 5.0, approval of the consent agenda. 5.1, council District 13, authorization for new multi-way stop control for Good Bar Drive and Kermit Drive, requested by NDOT via Hub Nashville. 5.2, CD 29, authorization for new stop control for the Creek View Drive neighborhood, requested by NDOT as follows. 5.2.1, new stop control for Allison Court approach of the intersection of Clearwater Drive and Allison Court. 5.2.2, new stop control for Des Plaines Drive approach of the intersection of Des Plaines Drive and Edgemore Drive. 5.2.3, new stop control for the Galesburg Court approach of the intersection of Galesburg Court and Galesburg Drive. 5.2.4, new stop control for the Galesburg Drive approach of the intersection of Galesburg Drive and Des Plaines Drive. 5.2.5, new stop control for the Galesburg Drive approach of the intersection of Galesburg Drive and Edgemore Drive. 5.2.6, replace existing yield control with new stop control for the Edgemore Drive approach of the intersection of Edgemore Drive and Creekview Drive. 5.2.7, replace existing yield control with new stop control for the Des Plaines Drive approach of the intersection of Des Plaines Drive and Creekview Drive. 5.3, CD 19, authorization for new valet lane for 3 spaces on the west end of 207 10th Avenue South, effective 5 p.m. through 10 p.m., 7 days a week, requested by Brookstead Parking Company. 5.4, CD 19, revocation of existing valet lane on the east side of YMCA Way at 900 Church Street with authorization for new passenger loading zone 24/7, requested by valet operator and NDOT. 5.5, CD 19, authorization for new timed parking restrictions, 2-hour parking 24/7 on 11th Avenue North between Charlotte Pike and Josephine Holloway Avenue and Josephine Holloway Avenue between George L. Davis Boulevard and the Gulch Greenway, and on Nelson Mary Street between George L. Davis Boulevard and the Gulch Greenway, requested by NDOT and property owners. One point of clarification, 5.5 needs to be deferred indefinitely. Do we need to pull that off to do that? Okay. I will make a request that item 5.5 be pulled out of the consent agenda and moved to regular agenda. Any other requests for items to be pulled off of the consent agenda?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to request, if I may, 5.3.
5.3, any others? If not, do I have a motion to approve items in the consent agenda, including 5.1, 5.2, and 5.4? Do I have a second? Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items 5.1, 5.2, and 5.4 under the consent agenda has been passed. We'll move on to 5.3. 5.3 CD 19. Commissioner Holler, I'll give you the floor with any questions. Emily, please come forward.
Thank you, Chair. I will be quick. I had a couple questions for the staff, if I may. I'm very familiar with this location and the traffic that backs up on Demonbreun, right at this intersection of Demonbreun and 10th Avenue South. It is a very highly traveled route from I-40 exit, with providing connectivity to downtown, to Bridgestone, all these things that you already know. Music City Center, the Frisk Museum. And on event days, it can be observed that the traffic backs up considerably in both directions. It's a very, as you can see, 10th Avenue South is very tight along this proposed valet parking area. So my questions are, I'm assuming that the staff has considered those heavily traveled event days and evenings. Where along here is there a loading and unloading zone for Ubers that would be servicing customers going to this restaurant or going to the Starbucks, which is on the corner, or any other business in Cummins Station?
So there is no loading zone on this stretch. However, anybody who is able to park in one of those parking spaces that are currently available is able to utilize parking in 15-minute increments.
Yes, and along with that, there is a parking lot behind Cummins stations as well that people can also access for drop-off.
Right, it's around the corner, though.
Correct.
Right, right. So currently there, I walked it over the weekend, and just to the south of this green arrow, there were several NDOT cones blocking off other parking spaces. I didn't know what those were for. So in this plan, there would be no loading or unloading for Ubers
This is
or
strict.
drop-off.
I'm sorry. Yeah, this is strictly a request to approve a valet zone for 3 spaces for one of the restaurants that is adjacent to those spaces that are marked on the picture.
Right, okay. And you all feel that it's far enough away from the intersection?
Well, actually, we've done a test. We had those cones out; those were ours.
Right.
We've had an eye on this for the past couple of weeks, and we actually are. So first of all, there's 2 things here. The occupancy of these spaces is not going to be very crucial because there's going to be 15 to 20 vehicles a night. So it's not going to be impacting the right-of-way that much. And we made sure with us bringing this to you, we had that information. And it would have not gone to the agenda if that would have been a higher number. And secondly, we are willing to, and part of the reason why we've done the testing was, or I'm sorry, the operator has done the testing, would be that we would be willing to move the spaces up to where, right here, if you could see, the first 3 spaces would be the valet. We actually established that moving it up to where the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th space would be the valet would be a little better, and that's what we would like to do if this gets approved. So that would still allow more space for the not too many cars throughout the night that would come through and park efficiently and safely with 3 spaces, and it would provide a parking space in front of it also.
Great, thank you. You answered what was going to be my next question, which was, what do you anticipate the frequency, the usage to be of valet? And am I hearing you say only 15 to 20 vehicles per evening?
Pretty low volume.
That is what's reported. Now, we'll obviously have an eye on this. This is our regular route because there's speed parking there also.
Right.
And so we still have the chance to bring it up to your attention if there would be any sort of violations. It's a 3 strikes and you're out scenario. So we'll obviously, anything that gets approved, we place a lot of eyes on it, make sure that we spot check randomly throughout the night. And I also wanted to just confirm so it doesn't get forgotten. This is just a valet between 5 p.m. and 10
Right.
p.m. So it would be paid parking all the other times.
But it is 7 nights a week, however.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to confirm, if it is a valet lane during the valet times, rideshare can use that for passenger drop-off. Right?
Yeah, technically, they could if they're going to be utilizing the restaurant, and it's also to the discretion of the contract, the operator. If they're okay with it, I don't see a problem why they wouldn't be able to.
But, I mean, my question then would be for legal, because I think it's part of the code that they can use it, and the valet operator cannot prevent that from occurring.
Correct. The people who are utilizing or arriving via rideshare, they would typically pull in, get dropped off, and then the rideshare would then pull out and move on.
Okay.
Yes.
I apologize, misunderstood the question.
Yeah, sorry. That's the only question I have.
Any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve 5.3 CD 19.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5.3 is passed. Item 5.5, it has been recommended at NDOT that this item be deferred indefinitely. Any questions or comments? We have a motion?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Who asked for this item? Where did it come from?
Mr. Smith?
Originally, the item came from NDOT in consultation with the property managers that are there. And we are looking at establishing timed parking there, but there was also interest, I think, on the part of the council member to look at this further and potentially consider pay parking as well here. So we're asking for a deferral.
Question.
Please go ahead.
As a follow-up question to Vice Chair Gibbs, so currently, these spaces are free? These on-street parking spaces are provided complimentary?
That's correct. This is not a pay parking zone.
Thank you.
Mr. Mohammed, do you have a question? Any other questions? Do we have a motion to defer 5.5 indefinitely?
Make a motion to defer it indefinitely.
We have a second? Second. It's been first and second. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5.5 has been deferred indefinitely. We'll move on to item 6.0. Regular agenda 6.1, CD 19, presentation of Connect Downtown implementation for 2nd Avenue North and South Street, the directional conversion from Union Street to Korean Veterans Boulevard, requested by NDOT. If you don't mind, state your name for the record. Just for point of clarification, this is a presentation only, correct? No voting item.
That's correct, Chair. Just
Okay.
a presentation update.
Please state your name for the record, and you have the floor.
My name is Brent Schultz, Connect Downtown Coordinator for NDOT. I'm glad to be here with y'all. And I just wanted to give you a quick update on the 2nd Avenue Street Conversion Project. First, a little background, just about where is Connect Downtown. It is that area, the dotted lines, the interstate loop there, and the area, that entire area was studied with special emphasis on that work for Cumberland River to the west. And why did we do a Connect Downtown study? Well, it was identified in the Metro Nashville Transportation Plan in 2020. It recognized that all modes downtown, I don't have to say this, are slowing to a crawl there. We've got significant issues and concerns about getting emergency vehicles in and out of there, long-term growth, and our quality of life in the downtown area. And also, a little bit of facts, 365% increase in our population in 10 years. Huge increase in office space and employees, and an entertainment district that's doing great and continues to grow. Actually, those numbers are low. I heard from the convention group that it's up to almost 17 million this year. We went up 4% last year, so we continue to grow. We need to do something. So when they looked at the Connect Downtown plan, they really talked about what are the must-haves for downtown. Pedestrian priority, transit, we got to have great options to get around and redundancy. It must be safe and comfortable. And then we got to have active management of it. So they came up with a plan after much traffic studies and analysis and many, many meetings about putting in that little orange colored area, a transit priority corridor, to move our buses quicker, faster, to put in queue jumps, to put in priority loading areas, flexible curbs so that we could flex the curbs from deliveries and services to loading of passengers and buses to get in and out of there. And other modes of travel like the mobility lanes, bike lanes, not just transit corridors, widening sidewalks, and many. There's like 103 projects in the Connect Downtown plan. But what I want to talk to you about first is the focus of this is the conversions of the streets. After the studies were done, they recommended 4 streets be converted, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th. And you can see we're talking about basically 2nd Avenue from Union all the way down to KVB. This is, I wanted to show everybody, I'm starting to show this to remind people, we did a traffic study before I got here in April 2024, and we looked at 164 intersections. And what that showed, I encourage you to go read it. It will put you to sleep. No offense, KCI. It's a very good study, though. But it shows you we've got problems at these intersections. They're and they're looking out ahead at our current growth rate at those intersections. We've got to do something. The Connect Downtown Plan. So what was second? It was project IDs 14, 15, 16, 17. The Connect Downtown Plan talked about southbound vehicular capacity was a problem. We needed to get that capacity in there, not just for people to get to businesses and housing down there to the south, but also so that we could handle special events and get another way to get people in and out of the downtown, because right now it's one way north. Again, it works together with those 3 other projects and those 100 other projects that we're doing downtown, and will result in improved curb and street congestion, more efficient movement for needed delivery service at workers and residents and their tourists. So I wanted to just show you some snippets of what the street could look like. This is basically Commerce to Broadway now. As you go out there, it's one way north. It's got 2 63-foot loading zones on it. That's how it would look after. We've got those blue areas are signals we have to put in, mast arms for southbound traffic. And I got the north arrow there so you can see it. There's really, there's no curb space on that street other than those 2 loading areas that we can use for deliveries, services, and then in the evenings for passenger drop-off. And just north of this, I don't have those. There's 3 others going in the next block up. They're 2 62-footers and a 45-footer. This is Commerce Street from 2nd to 3rd Street, and this will be, by the way, at the end of this year, 2nd Avenue rebuild will be done. If the weather holds, they can cap that street, finish it up, and open up that street. Commerce from 2nd to 3rd is going to be restriped. We're going to put loading zones in that blue that can flip at nighttime to passenger drop-off. That'll give them much needed loading and unloading in that area. And then there was discussions in some of the meetings I've had with folks that we're not providing any valet anymore downtown. That's not true. We are looking at valet in the downtown, and the Storyteller Hotel, Dolly's Hotel, will have a valet entrance from that 45-foot area. And then the typical, so that was the 2nd Avenue rebuild side of it. It'll be 2-lane all the way up from Broadway, all the way up to Union. And then from KVB all the way to Broadway, it's going to be a 3-lane road is a conceptual ideas for it, one way north, one way south with a center turn lane. And you can see in black there, that's the color for the entrances into the parking areas throughout that street. We have to also put a signal in down there at the southwest corner of KVB and 2nd. So here is what the next block looks like from the Ped Bridge to Demumbrian, and once you hit Demumbrian, so basically KVB to Demumbrian, it's 3 lanes, then it goes down to 2 lanes, and we preserve that eastern curb there. There's valet in there, there's some loading, there's some metered parking, lots of areas that are in red that we can't do anything with because of the clear zones we need around those entrances. And I've got a couple bike corrals that we put in last summer. This kind of just gives you an overall picture of how 2nd, 3rd, and 4th will look. Again, providing needed improvements to move more people in and out of the downtown. That's a big issue we have when you look at these studies on the downtown, is how are we going to do it? I've done right-of-way widenings. You either widen the right-of-way if you can, and that's really expensive, or you reuse what you have better. And I think we have a great plan. It's reusing what we have and do it in a better way. So basically dedicated bus lanes at intersections, queue jumps on 3rd and 4th, move more people more efficiently, provide where we can, get the sidewalks wider. Right now we have, a lot of issues that we're always battling with the amount of pedestrians we have spilling over in the streets and unsafe situations. We need to, where we can, widen the sidewalks. By the way, that traffic study and the Vistro modeling we did back in 2024 of the 164 intersections, shows without these improvements, we will experience, if you do nothing, intersection gridlock, basically, and wait times that will be longer. You know, I talked to some of the parking lot owners, and they said, geez, it's taken 2 hours. I think it's going to be much longer if we don't figure out ways to get people in and out of there with other modes. So this is, I just wanted to show everybody this, and so you can go look at this, but this one slide that really gives me the pause when I look at it is what happens if we do nothing. If you look at the PM peak, 1,350% increase in intersections that are over capacity. That build 50% AMG scenario and 100% scenario, that's basically the consultant team looked at if you could move in that second one, the 50%, 76% of the people in SOVs, and the rest, 24%, walking, biking, or in buses. Then you can drop down the increase of your intersections that go over capacity. And then that last one is, I believe it was 33% or 66% of the people going to SOVs and 33 or something like that, approximately, going to other modes of travel. So what are our next steps on the street conversion project? We are going to open the street as a one-way street. Our teams will be out there. If the weather holds the rest of this week, they'll be milling the street, temporarily striping it, keeping the street open from Broadway all the way down to KVB. And then Broadway North will be open, hopefully sometime mid-December, right, Brad? It'll be open end of December. The weather can help us, hopefully. When it gets below a certain temperature, we cannot do thermoplastic. We can't cap the street. It won't stick. It won't hold. But that should happen there. We are gonna prepare engineering studies on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th over the next 6 months, and we're gonna hold regular meetings, and I'll put anybody, if you'd like to attend, over in the downtown, probably in the Ambrose room, or maybe one of those, or I'll put that notice out soon. And we're gonna start working, briefing everybody on these 3 studies and the outcome of them. One of the issues was people are asking us, well, let's see what's happening north of Broadway. We couldn't study it because it's been closed for quite a while, years, because of the Second Avenue rebuild. So we're gonna do a study over the next 6 months, study them all together, and then after that, come back to you all with those studies and then next steps for you to consider on those projects. And that concludes my presentation, and we are here. I thank you for the time, and we're here to answer any questions.
Any questions from Councilman?
Thank you for the presentation and the update. I have 2 questions. One is kind of like, how does this fit in with the timeline and the practicality of the additional conversions that are highlighted in the Connect Downtown plan? So is this like a prerequisite to making the other ones work? Like, are they kind of interrelated and it's all or none? Or how are y'all thinking about like the overall, the bigger picture conversion question?
I'll bring up Brad here on that.
Yes, great question. Councilmember and Commissioner, my name is Brad Freeze. I work with the Nashville Department of Transportation. So yes, they are all interrelated. We want to actually study, this is part of the reason why we're studying it. In this 6 months, we're actually combining in the 3rd and 4th Avenue study at the same time, and they're more different. I will back up and say they were all studied as a system together overall by KCI in the Connect Downtown study. So we wanted to make sure everything that we were doing would be a net benefit for the entire system in there. At the same time, we also committed to doing individual studies for each of those conversions and those through that time. So that was during that time. So we're actually going to stage these together, do 3rd and 4th and 2nd Avenue at the same time, those studies.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And then my second question, and I think my last one for now, is in the cross-section you showed of Commerce Street between 2nd and 3rd, the protected bike lane that is there today is not in those drawings. So what are y'all contemplating for the bike lanes on Commerce?
Just for that to be a sharrow and a shared lane there in that section. We had you couldn't see it, they're small. It's the little sharrows in both lanes.
So just the one block?
Just that one block.
So
The
how does
rest of the rest of the block from Commerce is being studied right now for bike lanes on both sides from there all the way to, gosh, does that go to 10th? I forget that bike lane, how far it goes out. I think it goes all the way to 10th, yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, obviously with the two-way cycle track on the north right now, it wouldn't be ideal to have it diverge. So are you contemplating that it would be protected from 3rd to 10th?
Yes.
And it's just 2nd and 3rd that you're saying?
Would be Sharrows.
Sharrows, okay.
Yes.
Thanks for that clarification.
Any other questions? Commissioner?
So it was my understanding that we would start to try to do projects around the same time of things and kind of lump them together. And so we're doing milling and paving on 2nd, and we're going to mill and pave it and then stripe it, then come back and do it again. Is that my understanding?
That's a great question. We will not be coming back and milling and paving again. What we're putting out is actually temporary striping, so we're not going to have to repave it. We're only going to pave it once. What we're putting in place now is not going to prevent us from the conversion in the future and for wasting any funds for going out there and redoing it.
Okay. Second question, 2nd Avenue is supposed to be done first. In your timeline, it was completed by 2026, so are we going to be behind schedule now?
I believe 2nd can stay on schedule, and then I'd have to get back to you on 3rd and 4th on that question.
Okay.
On that, and,
And then I'll jump in with another question. I appreciate you bringing up the fact that you're willing to kind of publish the meetings that would be happening about this. That would be something that I would request that it's put up on the calendar for the Nashville website. So that way people have an opportunity to do it, and definitely in a public place that people feel welcome to come and hear about this. So that way they have a venue to talk through these projects. Thanks.
Any other questions? Mr. Schultz, thank you for your time. Great presentation.
thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of Traffic Park Commission.
Thank you.
Item 6.2, recommendation to council regarding Metro Council Ordinance BL 2025-1072 related to sandwich board signage requested by Metropolitan Clerk's Office. It's been requested that this be deferred 1 month. Any questions?
That's correct. This is on the January legislative calendar. Councilmember Huffman has requested a 1-month deferral on this matter.
Any other comments, Mr. Freeze?
Thanks. So I will say that this is definitely in conflict with what we're trying to accomplish on the sidewalks as far as keeping sidewalks clear and safe for people to walk. And then that's why we had a concern with this, and that's why we wanted to have this discussion at TPC. So we have committed to the deferral with Councilmember Huffman, as we're going to be meeting with him on Wednesday to talk through it with him and Metro Planning.
Thank you. Questions from commissioners? Do we have a motion to defer it 1 month?
Motion to defer 1 month.
Do we have a second?
Second.
First and second, any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6.2 has been deferred 1 month. 7.0, unfinished business. 7.1, smart parking overview requested by TMP Commission. With this, I'm going to go ahead and call out item 7.2 legal, if that's okay, as it ties together. And we'll only be voting on item 7.2, but would it be fair to list them out? Or to go ahead and talk about it now, or just read it now? Get it out of the way?
Yes, sure, that's fine.
Okay.
It's in your discretion.
Item 7.2, CD 17, approval of new parking spaces in Music Row, requested by NDOT. 7.2.1, Chet Atkins Place from Music Row Square East to 19th Avenue South for approximately 37 spaces. 7.2.2, 18th Avenue South from Chet Atkins Place to Grand Avenue for approximately 15 spaces. 7.2.3, Music Square West from Chet Atkins Place to Grand Avenue for approximately 14 spaces. 7.2.4, Music Circle North from Music Square East to Music Circle East for approximately 30 spaces. 7.2.5, Music Circle South from Music Square East to Music Circle East for approximately 20 spaces. 7.2.6, Music Circle East from Music Circle South to Division Street for approximately 37 spaces. 7.2.7, Roy Atkiff Place from Music Square East to 18th Avenue South for approximately 56 spaces. 7.2.8, Music Circle East from Division Street to its terminus for approximately 30 spaces. Just for full context, we requested that NDOT provide a presentation on the overall rollout of the smart parking plan. As some of the commissioners here was not a part of that presentation a few years ago, I'd say 3 years ago. So I appreciate you all coming in and updating us on the history around how we got here, and look forward to y'all's presentation. Please state your name for the record.
Emmanuel Matias, NDOT.
Brandon Boatswain with NDOT. All right, so a little bit of history here. So first I'll go over the methods of payments. So as you may or may not know, previously you can only pay for parking on street via the old Duncan meters, which were the ones that you can simply just put a quarter, nickel, or diamond. Simple as that, right? And now we have evolved to e-commerce solutions, so now people can pay via their phone using Snap to Pay or Text to Park, along with being able to utilize coins and credit cards. For the paid parking operations, paid parking previously was from 8 a.m. to about 6 p.m., and then also on Saturdays with no paid parking on Sundays. Whereas now, paid parking is 24/7 in the CBD area, and then 6 a.m. to midnight in the non-CBD zone. And along with that, there was some changes to paid parking on holidays, which was approved, I want to say, December of 2022. Parking was free, I think, on Christmas and Thanksgiving, which now is no longer. We wanted to make sure there was fair across all holidays, and now paid parking is, all 365 days out of the year. We've evolved and created parking zones, whereas prior to the Parks Marking Program, there wasn't really set zones. You just had meters around the city. And then on the next slide, we'll show you some maps. But now we are broken out to 7 zones from downtown Sobro Gulch, Music Row, Edge Hill, Midtown, and Hillsborough Village. And in those zones, we also have some economy zones, which has essentially some discounted parking. And along with the parking enforcement, we've evolved and grown to about 40 officers over the past few years, from starting out with about maybe 6 to 8 officers. And that's for the entire county. When we talk about technology, was not existent back then, but we've evolved to license plate recognition cameras for enforcement. We previously were using paper citations, which we've evolved to a digital citation management system, which has a full-blown command center. We can see pictures from the citations. We can look at histories via license plates. We can see just a full scope and full details when it comes to parking enforcement in the county. And then on this slide right here, you'll see the previous map, which is on the left, right? So each one of those triangles indicates where the old legacy meters were, right? And on the right, you see now we have zones. And on the blue icons, those will be your pay stations. You have the zones which are color-coded from yellow, purple, blue, red, orange, green, and just pretty straightforward with that. And also on this map, you can see on which streets have paid parking. which streets have meters on them. And then just so you know, every street has QR codes for paid parking, but also take note that not every street does have a pay station on it, which is partially due to maybe the width of the sidewalks. We want to make sure that the sidewalks are ADA compliant, but also with that, we need to ensure that the sidewalks aren't overly shaded because these pay stations are also powered by solar panels. So it's not every sidewalk will also have a pay station, that's FYI.
I'll just add to what my colleague was mentioning. The enforcement times and the times of payment are different for the zones that are within the inner loop. We would save the CBD area, which would be in yellow, purple, and orange on the map on the right-hand side. And then everything else outside of it would be an enforcement from 6 a.m. to midnight. And then after midnight, it would be free, which, by the way, includes Music Row also. And the rates are also different as approved last year. So there's a different rate bracket for inner loop and a different rate bracket for everything outside of the loop. That includes the economy zones, which also have a different rate within the loop and outside of the loop.
Yeah, and even touching on that, thank you, Bemi. We've also expanded now to having the ability to pay for parking for up to 10 hours, where prior to this, you can only purchase parking for 2 to 3 hours at most, right? But we've honestly understand and heard the voices from the communities, and we wanted to expand upon that. So you're able to purchase parking for up to 10 hours. Everything's tied to your license plate. You can feel free to move about the zone. So if I pay for parking in downtown on Church Street, I can move to, 4th Avenue if I'm, in the same zone, so that way you have more flexibility. And then with that, you also have the option to extend your session. So if you feel like you need more time, you can extend all the way up to 10 hours. So you don't have to purchase 10 hours at the start. You can start off with purchasing 15-minute increments for the first 2 hours and then build upon that.
So for the fiscal year comparison for metered space count, I think one of the most important things to mention here is that implementation of paid parking has slowed down significantly in the last 2 years. Currently, we are about 2,700 spaces. We went from around 1,600 spaces at the beginning or the launch of the program with a significant increase of close to 30% for the next fiscal year, and then 20%, 21% the year after, and only 10% in the last couple of years. I do also want to mention that currently, in 2023, based on the research that I've done, we've had 170,000 vehicles transient in Nashville every day. Since 2023, it seems like the number has gone up. Now it's more 200,000 to 250,000. The 2,700 spaces that is on-street only covers barely 1% of those transient. And of course, understanding not everybody parks on the streets. There are private lots and whatnot, but just wanted to kind of highlight how behind we are as a city compared to what the transient traffic is. And so it's just kind of something to keep in mind moving forward. One of the benefits that we highlighted with implementation of the tiered pricing was the quality of life benefits. And so this applies across the board for new and existing parking. But one of the things that is always a problem is everybody, by the nature of how people are, if there's free parking, everybody gravitates toward parking at the free lot. Everybody does that. I do that. Everybody else does that. Well, what it creates is that, and you'll see this in the next slide, that yields about 10,800 illegal vehicles, abandoned vehicles, MMPD calls in the last 2 years, because cars are just left for extended periods of time on the right-of-way, And that prevents from people who would like to do business or would like to have a short-term interaction with the businesses or purchase power, that's being affected by not having availability for parking. And so what that creates in turn is vehicles are searching for parking spaces longer, which then creates more emissions, which then, makes people to be more frustrated than they should be, also creates backup. And so there's just a vicious circle of what paid parking, despite of the pricing, resolves that doesn't exist if parking is not paid and it's free for everybody. It creates a healthier environment because of the carbon emission footprint. There's increased rideship. The congestion is a big one, obviously, with so many cars coming in on a daily basis. This is something that needs to be looked at. There's social equity. The neighborhoods are quieter. There's less cars that should be commuting. The pricing is fairer for everybody. And I just want to mention, also very important for us here at NDOT, we manage the on-street parking. So the private properties are not something that we manage. And so the price bracket difference, that's not something we can speak to. I understand, and everybody else does, that sometimes parking on a private lot might be, $35 for 3 hours, whereas on the street it might be $7. We can't speak to, how we're trying to affect the pricing in the private lots, but that's not what we do. We're trying to make sure that if there's parking available on the street, it's fair for everybody, whether you're an employee, whether you're a guest, whether you're a pregnant mom, whether you're somebody who's bringing his or her child to a doctor, or for restaurant or date. It has to be fair across everybody, not just a certain group of anybody who just lives there or anybody who works there. It has to be available as a public space for every single person that is in that area. The current model that we have also provides saving for parkers. As my colleague mentioned, the tier pricing allows for you to have cheaper parking when you stay for shorter periods of time. And if you really have to be at the space where you currently are, near the place of business or near the area where you need to park and stay there for extended period of time, you have an option to decide whether parking in a parking lot is a better option or whether you would like to park longer at the curb, on street, but for a higher cost. And so I just wanted to kind of highlight the benefits of parking. This specifically speaks to paid parking because, again, some of these benefits go away if the parking is free. So some comparisons for key achievements for the department, and this is since the program started. On the right-hand side, you can see the large icons with the revenue. It's $10.3 million. Hours purchased is in the millions, 4.05 million hours purchased, and we have over 2 million transactions since the program launched. We've had close to 2,400 abandoned vehicles reported. And so abandoned vehicles are vehicles that either show signs of abandonment or in a state of disrepair. We had 3,600 illegal vehicles, which would be anything blocking a crosswalk, a fire hydrant, a lane of traffic. These are mostly reported from Hub Nashville, which would mean that the public is seeing a concern, it reports it to NDOT, and then NDOT goes and takes actions on those. So these are big numbers. Green tags would mean if there's an abandoned vehicle that we assume is abandoned, but we need time to verify it, there would be a green sticker placed on that vehicle. And then after a certain time has passed, if the vehicle is still there when we come back, then that would be towed. We have 1,740 tows and 1,870 requests from MMPD. All of these numbers went up since the presentation was made a couple of months ago. But if you put these numbers together, it's somewhere around 11,000. And so that's just the impact of what some of the streets are yielding if there's no compliance on a parking side or, yeah. This is the outline. You want to take this one?
Yeah. So here we kind of broke out and segmented some of our revenue streams. So we have obviously metered revenue, which has gone up since the start of the program. Valley revenue has also trickled up in consideration of the new rate structure that was approved by the Traffic and Parking Commission. Then you also have the residential parking permit program, which is in the green, which we saw a slight increase over the past fiscal years, along with bag meters, which have come from various requests for special events where spaces need to be blocked off for periods of time. We get various requests from different businesses and even from the city itself. And then we have some permit revenue, which you'll see took quite a little dip for over the past few years. Construction has slowed down a little bit, and also we don't receive that many permits when it comes to requests when it comes to green permits, which are for low emission vehicles. There are some vending permits that we do issue, but that has slowed down a little bit as well as the loading zones.
And so one of the reasons also is because we've introduced some programs that kind of help with that. So like the bag meter policy used to be only a rental for parking. Currently, we're able to do a little more things in the paid parking spaces as our policies or our new policies that we brought here earlier this year allowed. So the on-street revenue overall between fiscal year 24 and 25, you can see the trend, obviously, and this is seen across different businesses. Usually May is a pretty strong month, and October is usually a pretty strong month also. Then it slows down a little bit towards the winter and colder times. But these would be the totals of revenue. And year over year, there was an increase. I just want to mention that all revenues collected through the parking program are flowing into a special fund that is then used for the infrastructure improvement throughout the city and throughout Davidson County.
All right, so here on this slide on the top graph, you'll see the revenue kind of broken out by the payment streams. So in the blue, you'll see payment coming in through e-commerce where you're scanning the QR codes or doing text to pay. And then in the gray is where you're paying the pay station. So it's about a 75-25 split right there in favor of people utilizing the mobile platform. And then right below it, you have the average duration of stay. That's what ADOS stands for. And you can see that has increased going into 2025. Well, each year it actually has increased, but significantly this year, which I think correlates to the ability to purchase parking for up to the 10 hours now. You can see it by the time of day when you're seeing the volume uptick as well.
What's ADOS? Sorry.
Average duration of stay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And here you also see from our dashboard on the top left, you'll see that we're collecting pretty much 99.8 or 99.9% coins. I mean, of credit card payments versus coins. And then, and then next to that, you have average total. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank right here.
On your right-hand side?
Yeah, average total transactions per day, by month, year over year. So you can see the transaction uptick as well in 2025 versus 2023 and 2024. And you can see that on a month-to-month trend. And then right below that on the bottom left, you have the transactions by week over week. So you can see that correlation throughout the weeks of the year. And obviously you can see 2025, we were receiving significant trending upwards with people purchasing parking. And then on the bottom right, you have transactions by average ticket value by entry time. So with that, you will see the time of purchases for parking on the street by the time of day. And then you also see the value of the average transaction value by that time of day. So if you look at 3 a.m. to like 6 a.m., say, well, that's a pretty high ticket value. Well, you're also seeing low volume. So if you have minimal transactions during that time of day, you may see a higher ticket value because it's, there's less volume there versus throughout the day, you see our peak times are from noon to about 11 to about 1 o'clock. And then also you have another peak time from about 5 to 7 p.m. for the dinner hours there. But this is a great tool to kind of understand when we have higher traffic in the city, when people are looking to purchase parking on the street. And we can also break this down by zone, which is extremely beneficial, so we can look at how we position people for enforcement around the city to make sure we have overall compliance.
So for the citations fiscal year over year, as it was mentioned earlier, on September 9th, we went to a digital digital enforcement system, which would mean that we have a printer and a device that has a software that is running the enforcement. Before, it used to be paper tickets, similar to what MMPD is doing. This provides us a lot of tools on the back end. We're able to do different kinds of reports. We're able to do printouts for court when a citation is subpoenaed. We have court packets that allows to do. It allows us to do historical data. It allows us to do trends. It allows us to see the enforcement action in real time throughout the day or throughout a time span that we choose. And so there was a significant increase in citations, partially because electronic citation issuance is a little bit faster than the manual one, since you don't have to really write anything with the pen, but you can click a few options and select, let's say, the law from the drop-down menu. And so the citations have gone up. Obviously, we also had a little more employees. When I joined a couple of years ago, I think we were at 11, and so we are now at 40. And just a reminder, this is throughout 3 shifts. We operate 24/7, including overnight, and this is for all of Davidson County, not just Nashville. So these 40 people on our team had created 49,759 cases of compliance last fiscal year. And I just want to mention also, props to the team, this number doesn't represent all the ambassadorship action that we take. Obviously, not everything that we do yields a citation. There's a lot of talking, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of coaching, there's a lot of, could you please move? There's a lot of ambassadorship action, and I would say that probably we can triple this number to showcase the amount of effort that NDOT has put in, NDOT enforcement has put in with the public. It's probably in 150,000 interactions a year. So
yeah, one of the things we kind of adopted from MMPD, I know Commander Bearden talked about it a lot over the years, was the 3 E's, engage, educate, and then enforce. We always want to engage the community, to teach them how to become compliant, and then from after that, if we cannot obtain compliance, then we go ahead and enforce. But I think it's also very important that we provide that ambassadorship and educate the public on how to be in compliance. It goes a long way.
And so just real quick, the top 5 citations were meter time expired, which means no payment for the meters. Expired registration, parking in a forbidden zone or prohibited place, and parking on the wrong side of the street. I know there's a little graph here in a second about bike lanes. We're going to mention it also, but that's also part of the picture. As far as dispositions for the citations, guilty were 13,113, not guilty were 2, retired were 246, and dismissed were 218. As you can see, the number of citations that the judge might seem incorrect is very, very, very small. It's less than 1%. So the success rate is, I believe it's 0.6% failure or 0.8. It's very tiny. That would mean for every 100 tickets, half a ticket is incorrect. So that's very, very good.
And one more thing on that. So even out of that, you see a total, of almost 13,500 citations for this fiscal year. But out of the 50,000 citations that we've actually issued, so these can only account for citations that have been brought to court to be adjudicated, and all the other citations are still waiting to be, handled.
Or repaid.
Or paid, yeah.
So just briefly, on September 9th, I believe that's September 9th, when the program launched, electronically we've done 41,000 citations. The variance there between 49,000 something and 41 is the couple of months that we had when we still went live. We count everything from fiscal year that started on July 1st. We had 464 citations that were dismissed. 801 citations were issued for residential parking permit-related violations. 570 citations were issued for obstructing a fire hydrant. 321 citations were issued for parking on the sidewalk, literally on the sidewalk. And then we had 326 citations that were issued for obstructing a bicycle lane. And again, these are numbers for last fiscal year.
If you could go back real quick, just quick question on the things like the citations for the bicycle lane and/or the sidewalk. Is the response to that is just signage or just blatant defiance, or a bike parking in a bike lane seems pretty intentional based on how it's marked. So any feedback on why the individual decided to park there? Was it anything we could have done, or they just being tough?
It's usually a convenience factor. It's just closest to wherever they would like to go, and that's we consider it a safety hazard because anybody can go on a bike and not see it, or it could be at a curve or close to an intersection.
So they're parking in that bike lane and then going and getting a ticket? Correct,
getting an Uber Eats or just parking there because they refuse to pay for parking that is a block away. Or
so they're not paying, they're just parking there?
They're just parking there,
Correct.
Right,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
Yes, sir. Top 5 areas for bicycle lane infractions: 3rd Avenue, Stockyard, 10th Avenue, Commerce, Potter, Russell, 2nd Avenue. This number obviously has gone up since. This is for last fiscal year. I think we're about 100 citations more since July. So the issue still persists. We are still in the process of educating the public to ensure that the bike lanes are left open for those who use the bike to commute or for recreational purposes. So there's a big push on this, and we'll continue to enforce this as it's needed. Potential future installs, I'm going to let my colleagues speak to this.
Yeah, these are just some areas that we look to bring to the Traffic and Parking Commission in the future, some areas that we've kind of looked at. Obviously, you see Music Row here. There's some areas within Sobra as well that we're in communication with the council member, as well as on the next slide for Midtown as well. So there's some areas that are just in the works currently, and then we'll bring to you at a later date.
And so these days are obviously just something that we had as a projectile install. These can move further down depending on what the feedback is and what challenges we come across.
And just for better understanding of the selection process for these, you all do some pretty extensive strategic sessions early in the year to decide and understand where the next areas or pockets of town that
Correct.
we're going to roll those out.
Yes, sir. And so one of the new things that we introduced this year is a new wrap for our vehicles. So this is what our new vehicles will look like in the future. We started the wrapping for I think three or four vehicles now. This will be ongoing. This is what our enforcement vehicles will look like, so it should be easy to identify. We currently have 14 vehicles that have LPRs on them and a couple, like 4 or 5 vehicles that do not have LPRs on them. LPRs would be electronically reading the paid parking, the license plates for the vehicles that are parked. Of course, we still have footbeat enforcement officers. We have a lot of enforcement on foot in Broadway area, downtown core. But these are the cars that you would see around in the near future. And that would be all.
I appreciate that. Any questions on the presentation before we move on to the voting item? Commissioner.
Thank you for all that. Just a couple of questions. I think you had mentioned that there was a difference between the 13,000-ish citations that had been completed versus the 40,000 number that have been issued.
Correct. So that basically, on that slide, you just saw the citations that were actually taken to court to be adjudicated, right, through the court system. So even though we may have issued, 40 or 50,000 citations, during that period, only 13,000 of those citations have actually went through the court system.
Okay, so if I paid the ticket online, does that
Correct.
count towards the 13,000 or
No.
does not count?
No, it doesn't, yes.
There was one other on there, it was retired. Can you clarify what that means?
Retired.
I can speak to that really briefly. Sometimes what happens is that you have a ticket that just has like an error on it. It's like the date is incomplete or there's just missing information, and that will get retired.
Okay.
Because it's just not enforceable.
Awesome, thank you. The one chart that I found really fascinating was the time of day and the amount of revenue that was coming from that. From that chart, is it safe to say that the average amount of time for the most part is around 2 hours during the day? It looked like it was like a $4 revenue.
Used to be 2 hours because that was the max. Right. Now with us allowing up to 10 hours, it's shifting towards 4 hours more so. Right. It's probably going to be more in the future, but we're still in a period where this has only been alive for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, so we need more time to collect the data, and then you'll see that trend going upwards.
The trend is definitely there. I think next year, this time around, if you look back, then it's going to be higher.
Okay. One more on that. I know I've asked for it a couple of times. When will that be public and accessible for people to jump in and see?
This PowerPoint?
The dashboard.
The dashboard itself, you have to have an actual access to it. It's not like like the general public can't just log into Power BI and access it. So if you want information, they can request it through a public records request, and we can provide that for them.
Okay.
But you have to have credentials to actually access it.
Yeah, I would request to try to maybe get some of the summary data on the data portal or something of that. Post a PDF of it monthly, so that way people have an opportunity to kind of see that.
We can look into that.
Yeah, and a final question, sorry for hogging it. If we have a street that we would like to be considered within the program, what is the process for the commission or the public to then bring that forward?
Everything kind of starts with a hub request. That's usually, if you place a service request, usually the perception is that hub is only used for reporting of problems. It actually is also used as a tool to track where the request came from, why is that. That sometimes starts an engineering process, staff analysis, and then there's a step-by-step, there's a note section also that kind of outlines the steps that each department took. And then if you place it anonymously, unfortunately you can track it, but if you were to, which I recommend, enter your email address, then every step that happens on the service request is kind of, you will be seeing the notes that our department puts in. I think that is the best way. Outside of sending an email, we're always going to, well, Andrew just left, but he always asks me for a service request if there is something going on. So I think that's the best way to start.
Keep it documented.
Yep.
Council member.
Thank you. Thank you all for the presentation. I had one question about, as y'all are probably aware, when someone does get a parking citation in Nashville, I might get the numbers wrong here, but let's say $30 of that citation is the actual fee, and a substantial portion, I'm going to call it $50 here today, I don't have my notes in front of me on that, is an administrative court fee.
Correct.
And in other jurisdictions where I have unfortunately gotten a parking ticket, there's been a relatively easy way to resolve that, which is you walk to a kiosk and you put the ticket in and then you swipe your card or something, and there's no overhead court fees. Now, I've been looking into this, and it's my understanding that we would need a tweak to state law to be able to implement that here in Nashville to avoid charging those court fees to people, which is something that I hope we can accomplish in the next couple of years. But my question specifically is, the kiosks that we're putting out, would they be capable of resolving citations in that way?
So the kiosks are only capable of paying for parking, but on the back of the citations, there's a QR code. So you can scan that, and that would take you to the TVB website where you can then process payment for that citation.
Excellent. But just to clarify, right now, if you go to that website with the QR code, you're going to pay the administrative court fee, even if you pay it the moment you walk back to your car and see it. So the goal would be to get to where there's some kind of window where people can resolve these just for the parking fee and not for the administrative court thing. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like, but I'm hoping we can work with our friends on the Hill to
just to clarify, if you don't mind, it's $44 plus $1, so it's $45 for the court fee, and then $36 would be us at the ticket that is $70, which is usually the main. Most of the citations are in that range of $70. So The $44 is the court fee, which unfortunately there's nothing we can do with. But to your point, we are looking into what could be done, and I agree. This, it's very penalizing for you to be able to pay the ticket from 10 minutes ago, and you still have to pay the court fee, though you're not going to court. So 100% agree with you, and we're looking into it.
Thank you, sir.
Got it.
Commissioner Haller?
Oh, thank you. Gentlemen, thank you so much. This was incredibly insightful and enlightening. I especially appreciated all the data. I know a lot of that we've been asking for, so it's quite pertinent to particularly some of the agenda items. I especially took a note of your data regarding the the vehicles that are abandoned, green tagged, et cetera, in what are currently free parking spaces. I think that's an important element to this discussion that had not been brought up previously, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. I have two questions. The first is regarding the slide that you showed us with future installments of paid parking. Is there somewhere where it exists without knowing exactly where every one of those listed are? Is there a visual map that would show, perhaps be color-coded like the one that you shared with us that currently has paid parking? So for example, Capitol View, I don't think that was on the list. So we can kind of understand what's the strategy here, what streets are being earmarked for the future installations.
Yeah, so we actually are working on that. Those locations are now with the GIS technician who is actually going to put those on a map for us as well. So we can share that with you guys at a later date.
Very good point. The meetings that we have set up with the council members will have this kind of visual aid. So as he said, we are working on it. And for Capitol View, that's, I believe, 2-hour time parking. So that was only referring to paid parking areas. So that's might have not been on the list.
Correct, but in the previous question earlier today, I thought it was confirmed that that's currently free parking right now.
It is free, and we're going to have a discussion with the council member who was considering it for paid parking, but at the time, that happened after this presentation was made, so it didn't make the list that you saw on the presentation. Yes.
Thank you. My second question is regarding enforcement. As we understand, there are now 40 enforcement officers on the team. Could you explain how you all prioritize, maybe what areas of town, how are those 40 enforcement officers dispersed on any given shift, any given day, night of the week? And is there any emphasis on areas where there are events being held where people are perhaps parking illegally, not paying?
So we have the 40 employees that we have are obviously split throughout 3 shifts. So we're trying to cover as much ground as we can. We have call requests that usually come in also every single day. We have around, depending on the day, sometimes 40 to 50 that need to be addressed throughout the day. So it just depends on, we always have somebody downtown because Broadway, for example, a downtown core is obviously where a lot of the business happens. There's always somebody on Broadway because there's problems with loading zones, trucks parking in the lane of traffic, so we're trying to address that. We have areas that have residential parking permits, so we address that as well. Sometimes, a lot of times, the call requests have us, or hub requests have us go to Antioch, for example, because that's one of the areas that is the most dominant when it comes to illegal parking or abandoned parking. So we have to dedicate time to have somebody there. And then outside of that, we have 7 zones, so we try to have all of them covered to some degree, and then rotate as much as possible so that everything is covered within a certain time frame. As you could see on the presentation that we provided, there was 23,000 citations issued for non-payment. So obviously we can do a little better job, and we will, on making sure that the paid metered parking is paid. So we'll place a little more focus on that in the future. But outside of that is, there's a lot of initiatives that help us initiate where we need to go. And then we also have internal communication with different departments on events or something that is a pop-up or a hotel requesting an event or parking for their buses, that's all coming through our department. And we'll try to do as best as we can with sometimes, 7, 8 employees on the shift and sometimes 15. It just depends on what time of the day it is and how busy it is. Obviously, we overstaff and pay overtime sometimes when there's events for the weekend. We make sure that we have more staff on site. When it's a safety issue, we are in touch with MMPD. We are always trying to figure out how to improve, and then any feedback that is coming either from the public or from our end is then implemented into getting better at what we do.
Thank you very much.
Got it.
Yes, sir. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Gibbs.
With regard to the residential paid parking for this area, what's the percentage of residential parking for this area? How many homes or places where people live are affected by 7.2?
7.2 being.
So real quick, if we could hold that question, I want to close out the questions around the presentation, and then that'll be the first question once we shift to 7.2, just so we can close this portion out. Did you have any other questions related to the presentation? Commissioner Kornutick?
This may be like a clarification of where it's supposed to fit. One issue that got brought up to me was around food delivery, and my understanding is it probably doesn't fit underneath like a loading zone in terms of it's an easily carried thing with your hand. Is that our interpretation of what can be used for a loading zone, or is the expectation that they should be using these paid parking spaces in areas where that's available, or is that something that we maybe need to send to council to try to think through that maybe that could be part of a loading zone in the future?
Mr. Neal, that's an excellent question because we deal with this every day. And sometimes that every day yields in a citation, and so we have to have these discussions. You're right, the loading zones, usually the ones that are marked as loading zones refer to freight. So that would exclude what you just said, delivery of food. However, our agents and NDOT is trying to be a public servant as much as possible in all situations. So if the loading zone occupancy of this vehicle is not hindering, let's say, a truck coming in there and parking to unload, I think there's this discretion of the agent to let them finish their pickup, which usually doesn't take more than 3 to 5 minutes. Passenger loading zones have by code 3 minutes for pickup and drop off. So again, if they're not, we'd rather have them park in the passenger loading zone or loading zone than in the lane of traffic. Right. So when we see that and there's no other obstruction of right-of-way or safety hazard, which, by the way, we forgot to mention, we have a safety hazard person now as of 3 months ago that addresses immediate issues. Then we'll try to work with them as much as possible. If it's blatant, we'll cite or tow.
Okay, so thank you for that. And what I am hearing is maybe that's something that council can move to try to clarify and make sure that that's in the code so there's not so much of a question about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My only comment, could you, there's been a couple of figures thrown around $36 for the citation, $70 total as a baseline. What is the hourly cost for these parking meters, and then what's the maximum cost if people are playing by the rules?
So there's a progressive rate schedule. So the max in the CBD is $50 for paid parking, and then in non-CBD is $32. And then for economy parking in the non-CBD, it's $10, and then CBD, it's $20.
And then what if it's 3 hours? What does that cost?
So yeah,
economy.
So if you're in that 3 hours, you're, depending on which zone, you're going to be paying upwards from that $2 to $5. $2 to $4 to $5. And yeah, if you choose not to pay and you receive a $70 ticket, you would have been better off obviously paying for the $3 versus now the $7. Or if you don't pay it and then you hit the 45-day compliance, that value can go up. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. Really great presentation. Really appreciate that data. With that, we'll shift to item 7.2, approval of new parking spaces in Music Row requested by NDOT. Commissioner Gibbs, we will give you the floor for your question.
Sorry for getting ahead of myself, but again, my question is, with regard to these spaces that we're looking at, what is the percentage of residential, or what is the percentage that will be affected by residents? If you're following what I'm saying. What I'm asking is, okay, if there are 500 people that are in that area, what percentage of those people actually live there versus going there to work or going there for some other type of business? Because we've talked about residential as well as businesses.
So that's a tough one to kind of put a number on for sure. I know in Music Row you do have a lot of apartment complexes that do provide parking. A lot of the parcels in Music Row, though they may look like houses, they are also studios as well. I don't have an exact number, but I can say that there is not there are not residential parking programs in Music Row by default. Just hasn't been any request for that. But it's hard to give a number as how many homeowners will be affected, as we don't have that data.
Commissioner Kornutick.
This may be a question towards legal. Are we, in how we're thinking through this, are we able to like single out specific businesses or specific industries? Or should we consider this holistically of the area outside of what's there?
I think you would have to treat this area the same as any other area in Davidson County.
I got one question. Can we get some clarification on what this authority, on our authority here, in terms of how this is described in the agenda? What leeway do we have in terms of going against the engineering and traffic investigation, or going against NDOT's recommendation here?
Sure. I'm going to read you a section of Metro Code 1244010, subsection B, which says the Department of Public Works, which is now NDOT, is authorized, subject to the approval of the Traffic and Parking Commission by amendment of Schedule 7, to establish parking meter zones at other locations upon these streets or parts of streets where it is determined upon the basis of an engineering and traffic investigation that the installation of parking meters shall be necessary to aid in the regulation, control, and inspection of the parking of vehicles. So while they're authorized to establish these zones, it's up to your approval. So you have the discretion to approve or disapprove.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have first a comment and then a couple of questions. To respond to Vice Chair Gibbs' question regarding the number of residents, I do live in the area. I can confirm that there are at least a couple thousand high-rise apartment and condominium units. If there's more than one person residing in that, you could add to that number. It depends on how far you define, how someone would walk to park their car. And some of those have already established on-street paid parking. Correct. Yes, okay. So I have two questions, and one kind of piggybacks on the question regarding our authority. And this was spoken during the public comment regarding on the basis of engineering and traffic investigation into the installation. Can you all speak to what engineering investigation has led to this recommendation?
I can speak to it briefly just from the observations that we had. And I kind of mentioned that before. Some of the parts of Music Row already pay parking.
Right.
What that does is that everybody kind of shifts towards the non-parking area, the free parking areas. And then those spaces, as you could have seen in the 10,000 or 11,000 cases that we had throughout the years, that yields in cars just parking there for extended periods of time. And so when we drive out there, we're seeing an imbalance of empty streets where there's paid parking, and then completely full streets where there is no paid parking, but then also inability to find parking for somebody who needs it. And so what paid parking provides is the fair equity of anybody who wants to come in can either decide how long they need to stay there, but the public road itself is not there to prioritize for anybody, whether it's a employee or employer or anybody else. And so I hear the frustration, I understand the frustration, everybody who spoke here today, but we have to look at everybody collectively as public. We can't just cater to certain groups of industries or people. And so I think I went a little off track and I apologize.
That's okay.
But we've seen the streets being overutilized where the free parking is present. And so that kind of gives us the necessity to address it. And I just want to mention also that a couple of months ago, I think it was actually in June, we approved all of Music Row to become economy zone, which currently it is not, which would mean that the pricing would go down almost 4 times. So currently the max to park is $35 for 10 hours. If this gets approved, all these areas that would be introduced with paid parking would be a $10 max, which means that if somebody is doing a session or a dinner or whatever else for 3 hours, it would be $3. Now, I would also like to mention, and please forgive me, this is blunt. In 2013, I was in Washington, D.C., and I managed parking in Washington, D.C. From 13 to 17. Paid parking on the street at that time was $1 an hour. This is 12 years later. We're introducing some of the cheapest rates anywhere in the United States. I have Philadelphia at $4 an hour. I have Austin at $3.50, Portland at $3.25, Denver at $3, Charlotte at $2.50. I got DC at $2.30 now. That used to be $1 12 years back. In all of Davidson County, what we are proposing here with Music Row is the cheapest possible parking we have. There's nothing cheaper. All the parking lots will get more expensive. So we're actually trying to help the public to provide an option to have a parking that is much cheaper than the private properties, which we cannot control. This is something we can control, and we're trying to do our best.
Along with that, if we have the streets now regulated, it opens up the ability for the space turnover, because if you have free parking spaces and people are parking there for 14 hours throughout the day, well then others who are coming to that community do not have the ability to utilize those spaces, so we want to make sure that it's fair across the board. So.
And I just want to mention one more thing. I apologize. I received a service request Thursday last week to introduce paid parking because the business it just doesn't have anybody he doesn't have a place for his customers to park because there's always somebody parking in front of his business. So it's a give and take. It's extremely difficult to please everybody, but we are trying to do our best to make sure that everybody's treated as fairly as possible.
Thank you. Next question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As I understand, in some of the areas where there is paid parking, such as Hillsborough Village and perhaps part of Midtown, that in part that was established due to competition for the curb, where cars were parking there for 7, 8, 9, 10 hours at a time, perhaps students, employees, et cetera, et cetera. I think what we've heard from the public who's come forward now 2 or 3 times at our meetings as this continues to be deferred have stated that that's not particularly the case in this area. There's just not a huge competition for the curb. As I said, I live in the neighborhood. I can see that there is turnover at the curb. So if you could explain what makes this different, why, in relation to that aspect?
Well, when you have free parking spaces, and it all depends on how long people are looking to utilize the spaces for. But if it's free, you have the ability, and it's unregulated, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. You can stay there all day, you can leave the car there overnight. And if you do that for the entire neighborhood, it's not necessarily fair for those who may need to come in and utilize the space and not have access to it, or they have to go somewhere else and then pay for parking in the same zone. So we wanted to make sure that it's the same footprint all around within Music Row.
Okay, my last question, if I may. One of the proposed areas is adjacent to the Tony Rose Park, which is the Metropolitan Park. That's on Music Circle East. And I wanted to ask how that kind of fits with our plan to invite the public and encourage the public to use our public green spaces.
Which park is this?
Tony Rose Park. It's highlighted here in the green on the map.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what park you're referring to, but I'm going to just revert to what I said earlier. I think $1 parking is very reasonable, so if anybody would like to use the park, having paid parking is going to encourage people to stay there only the amount of time that they need, which would then in turn provide spaces for all the other visitors that would like to visit
Is
the
it
park.
customary for our metro parks to require paid parking?
Is that under your jurisdiction, or the parks?
Parks is not our jurisdiction.
parks is not ours.
I thought we were
I
referring to
understand.
the public right-of-way near the park.
Right, for this particular park, there's no parking lot.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not.
Not
For
on
this
Metro.
metro park, Tony Rose Park, as well as Owen Bradley Park, which is nearby,
Right by the circle.
there's no free parking lot provided for the public.
I think the focus of this team is the curb. The parking lot, I mean, you all don't have knowledge and/or.
No, we just have the public right away, not private parking lots.
Right, I understand that.
Sure.
But what I'm suggesting is, in light of that information, is this something that we want to do?
I could throw a quick anecdote out too, since I spend a lot of time at like Dragon Park. There's definitely paid parking on that street as well. So it's not outside of the bounds of something we do within the city in an area that has this. Are you okay to, can I jump in?
Of course.
Okay. So that was kind of one of the stories that I wanted to tell is after this was first brought up, I spent a good hour or so kind of tooling around. The park was a big part of that, and I had biked over there, and what I had noticed was there was absolutely not a single space to be able to park next to the park. And that was during the middle of the day. So, if you have a young child and you want to bring them over there, I think that is a concern, and this is the type of thing that would potentially encourage turnover. I absolutely noticed, and I took a lot of pictures of the same type of thing that you all had talked about, where the areas that we did have paid parking were kind of desolate for the most part. There wasn't a lot of people utilizing it. And then the areas where there was no paid parking were completely filled. So I am supportive of this proposal in the sense that will create this opportunity for turnover, and it will spread out parking. So it is not just people trying to find specific areas. I see.
I'm reminded there are some paid parking spaces on the streets very close to the Centennial Park and the Parthenon. I don't know about within the park area because we don't regulate those spaces within the park. But on some of the adjacent streets, yes, we have paid parking.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so, I understand that there's some concern of how this works. And like we've talked about in the past, we have the ability to see how this goes. We have the ability to change it as needed. The economy zone idea is something that has been added to the program that wasn't originally conceived in this rollout. And I think that that's a great opportunity for us to spread this out to different areas, to have that ability to show a cheaper rate. If it doesn't go past a certain time period, that starts to later in the day, that's something we want to see. I hope there's some TDM programs in the works to help everybody kind of understand the options that are available in the area for different types of people. I understand that that's not going to be for everybody, but that is something that, you know, if you have an office job, you have that chance to kind of choose how you move a different way. So just want to express my support for moving this forward today.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
So so all of the other streets in this area would, when this goes through, or if this goes through, would get changed to economy zone. So what streets would that include? It's just this, what we're looking at here on this map? That would be the...
I am getting old and I can't read on the paper anymore.
Sorry,
But
Music Square East, Music Square West. You have Division Street. You have, you know, all the parallel streets that run, all the perpendicular streets that run from cross through Division. So 18th Avenue South, 19th Avenue South, 17th Avenue South. Just all the parallel and perpendicular streets within the zone.
Just for clarity, they would turn to economy
Correct.
zones.
Correct.
So everything within that zone would become economy
Correct.
rates. Thank you. Council member?
Thank you, Chair. So I used to work in this area, and as well, my optometrist is still over there, and my standard parking area over the years was Music Circle, right by Tony Rose Park. And I think the biggest change that I remember happening years ago was when all the neighborhood streets went resident permit parking in the neighborhood, which kind of pushed everybody out to the remaining areas. And it sounds like kind of a similar dynamic has happened with the existing pay areas. And then these, because like every time that I've gone to my optometrist in the last couple of years, it's been, Music Circle has been like very crowded, kind of a similar experience that Commissioner Kornutick shared when he went by there. And I think I'm in support of this because it does balance those areas right outside of the existing paid parking, and it does reduce everything to that economy rate. It kind of flattens it out, and I think it's going to kind of reduce the demand on these areas just outside of the existing pay zone and kind of smooth things out. So I hear the frustration. I hear a lot of frustration around parking issues in Nashville from lots of different industries and people. I mean, in my district, in District 5, a private parking lot operator has converted the Dollar General parking lot to paid parking on Dickerson. So if you could imagine that, the frustrations for folks in the area who are maybe utilizing that after hours. And now we've got a private operator charging for the Dollar General on Dickerson's parking lot. And that's just one example of just numerous frustrations that I hear. But I mean, I don't think that failing to manage our curb space adequately is the right answer to what some of the private operators are doing that people are becoming very frustrated with. So I just want to make sure that we're, kind of separating those in the conversation, that this is not, I'm not going to name any names here, but this is not the usual suspects kind of charging $22 to park at a Dollar General on Dickerson. This is a very reasonable, very steeply discounted curb management program, and I think I'm going to support it today. Thank y'all.
Appreciate it.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. And again, I follow along with our fellow commissioners in thanking you all for the tremendous amount of education that you've provided to us and background and patience with our questions. I have come into this conversation very torn. I too have spent a lot of time on foot and really studying the area and trying to appreciate and understand all of the comments from the public, those that also live in the neighborhood and work in the neighborhood. It's a tough one. For me, it's a struggle between the heartstrings and understanding what the true basis for this is. I think that the reduction of the zone to economy in the area currently that has the street parking, and then the introduction of that economy zone for this new area really, for me, makes it something that I'm more willing to support. And so I want to just add my appreciation for all of the the, the heavy lifting that you all have done to bring this proposal to us. And I would hope in the future that we can continue to kind of revisit it if there are issues, and perhaps look at ways that there might be some type of program available for our music industry team that have built Music City. I don't know what exactly that may look like, but maybe there is some type of a program in the future that we could entertain. Thank you.
With that, I will open up the floor for a vote.
Are we allowed to speak?
No, sir.
Do we have a motion to approve before us?
We do not. I'm looking for a motion currently.
I'll move to approve 7.2. Approve staff's recommendation on 7.2.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 7.2 is passed. Thank you all for your time and explanation. Item 7.3, CD 21, authorization for new residential permit parking on 10th Avenue North and 11th Avenue North between Coffee Street and Buchanan Street, effective 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 7 days a week, requested by Council Member Taylor. It's been requested that this be deferred indefinitely. Any questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
Motion to defer indefinitely.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments to the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7.3 has been deferred indefinitely. Item 7.4, recommendation to council regarding Metro Council Ordinance BL 2025-956, requested by the Metro Clerk's Office.
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We realized during this meeting that the substitute ordinance that NDOT has proposed is the wrong version in your agenda packet, so we've prepared we have the copies of the version we'd like you to review during the meeting. And I would propose that maybe we take a 5 or 10 minute break, however long you need to review the proposal. It's the item that is in your agenda under 7.4.1 that's cut and pasted into the agenda is not the ordinance that NDOT, correct. That's not the ordinance NDOT is proposing. We have another one.
I'd like to apologize for that. I have several versions that are marked final, and I included the one that was marked final that I thought was the final in your packet.
We'll do a 5-minute recess. I don't know how to do that, but I deem a 5-minute recess.
You can ask for a motion to.
We have a motion for a 5-minute recess to review this. Second. It's been approved. we had a recess that was off the record, or did they ever turn it off?
Oh, they do.
They do turn it off?
Well, it shows the commercial break.
Okay.
If anybody from ITS is listening, could you turn the broadcast? It's going back on. Great. Thank you, ITS, for all your hard work.
In 3, 2, 1. Okay, item, I forgot where, 7.4, recommendation to council regarding Metro Council Ordinance BL 2025-956 requested by the Metro Clerk's Office. 7.4.1, recommendation to council for proposed substitute ordinance for BL 2025-956 requested by NDOT. In our packets, a version was provided that was not the final version. We have since, independently as the commission reviewed this, and would like to open up the floor to commissioners for comment. Okay, council member.
Thank you. So I want to thank y'all for working with the council member. It looks like a lot of what was brought up in the last meeting has been incorporated here. I definitely feel like the scope has been tightened to actually what I think is going to actually address the issue. And so I really want to thank everybody who's been back and forth on this through so much, including the lead sponsor at Metro Council. The only question I have is, so in the definition, we're defining large vehicle as class 4, US DOT or higher. That makes perfect sense to me. And then the term also includes, but is not limited to, box trucks. Box trucks are probably the only item specifically called out there that I have like a little bit of pause about. So like, would that include like a U-Haul that you don't need a CDL for, like a U-Haul that a regular person gets?
This would still need to be a class 4 box truck.
Okay, so we are kind of setting the floor at okay.
Yep.
As class 4.
And if I can just, there's still discretion of the agent. Obviously, if somebody's moving, we are.
It's hard to think of a worse welcome to a city than
exactly. So we're aware of all of that. Unfortunately, it's extremely difficult to put all the scenarios in short paragraphs. So there's going to have to be a situation where there's discretion. It's just impossible to pack everything into a code. So the human factor and element is still in there, and we'll do our best to make sure we continue to be ambassadors before we cite.
Well, this is a lot tighter than the language that was in there before. So, I mean, I'm certainly more comfortable with it. I'm not a big fan of gray area in the code. I think I like it when people can like know what's expected of them and know how to comply with things. But, you know, most people are not parking their U-Haul as they move to a new city and immediately looking up the Muni Code website and parsing the language about if their box truck is allowed overnight or not. So I'm hopeful that in these issues, when they arise, that common sense will prevail if there is any gray area. So, but again, I think it's a significant improvement over what we considered last time. So thank y'all for your work on it.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Holler?
Oh, thank you. Since we're reading and absorbing this as we go here, I just want to clarify on section B3 in the prior substitute NDOT version compared to this, I believe the 30 minutes allowed for service completion was listed previously as a last resort. And here, if I'm reading it correctly, it basically could happen at any time. Am I understanding that correctly?
Not necessarily. What this states, the 30 minutes, is if you're actively engaged in any kind of activity that includes a truck,
right,
and you finish that activity, it's preferred that you remove the vehicle within 30 minutes of you finishing up that activity.
Right, but you can sit, I mean, the vehicle can be in the travel lane for 30 minutes.
No, it can be in travel lane at any time during the daytime.
Okay. Okay, minimum. May stand temporarily during daylight hours, only while providing a service.
And just to be clear, when we say travel lane, they still have to, the road has to comply to where they can provide an adequate travel lane for cars to pass.
Correct. Still need
So
12 feet.
it's sitting there, but there's adequate room for vehicles to still
Correct.
occupy.
Pass safely, correct.
So that is mentioned there, and also there's a sentence that is purposefully that it says regulatory signs shall take precedence over pavement markings, which is important, because if it's a no parking zone, it doesn't matter if the width is allowing you to park there, you just can't park there.
Chair, clarification on that. The 12 feet allowable for passing could be for passing into oncoming traffic in another lane?
If there's, so
One of the reasons I'm asking, I experienced this on my way here today.
Yes, yes.
With a moving van blocking the one lane this way, one lane this way.
The way
And
I
couldn't really get around.
The way I try to word it is that if there is a, and I think I might have, I'm not sure exactly what we are speaking to right now, but 12 foot, if there is a delineation, if there is a, if you have if there is a double yellow line or a mid-lane indication of pavement marking, then you must provide 12 foot of space for that travel lane. If there is no marking, the entire width of the road is supposed to be at least 12 feet, which creates a yield condition, which is standard practice at this time also.
So essentially, if there's a double yellow line, it's a 2-lane road, they can't park there.
If you would like,
But if it's a 4-lane road.
Correct.
With a double yellow line, then they can park in the travel lane and then they can pass. If it's a 2-lane long with no stripe, 2-lane road with no striping at all, then they have to provide 12 lanes from the shoulder striping. 12 feet, sorry. 12.
Texas.
Thank you.
I understand that. I'm not sure that this could be misinterpreted. Back to Council Member, to Commissioner's
I'd like to point out,
about
there's a separate provision in the code that calls out that vehicles have to be parked in such a way as to leave 12 feet for free passage of vehicles. It's in this chapter, but it's actually in another paragraph. And I'd also like to point out that if you park in a way that you're causing traffic to perform an illegal maneuver, and that is crossing that double solid yellow line, you know, our friends with MNPD can write tickets if you cross a double solid yellow line. So we're trying to say, hey, look, you got to leave 12 feet so that somebody can pass you without crossing that double solid yellow line.
And Mr. Smith, I think that's where we might need some more interpretation on the way this is written. Or more clarity, rather, definition. I understand the intent, I'm not sure it's clear.
I guess to make it clear, are we asking for, the configuration of striping to be added, or I think, just.
Can I?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to suggest, because this is mentioned twice, C number 2 has, I believe, more details when it comes to the same 12 feet of width. One of them is for parking, the other one is for loading and unloading, but it's the same rule. It might be explaining it better in that second paragraph.
Perhaps just add that to the,
So copy and paste C2 to B3.
We could do that.
yes.
In
We could do that.
the shaded area or the highlighted area?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can note that in the motion. Or what is it, B2? Yeah. Any other questions? Commissioner?
So if there's already regulation in the code that says, hey, you can't park in a way where it causes people to do an illegal maneuver, or there's, a minimum width that's allowed, why do we need this? Is that something that we are allowed to ask here, or what is the purpose of this if there's already
Council
code
Member
that addresses this?
So there's already a section of code that governs the subject matter that we're talking about. And as we've kind of looked at this at the council committee and at this body, there's some way too much gray area and lack of confusion, lack of clarity in the code that exists today. And so I've thought about that as we've had this question as well. It's like, is this necessary? And I actually think it is necessary that we clean up this section of code because of how difficult to interpret and restrictive it is today. There's already something in there that covers this, and it doesn't do a very good job of it. So this, in my opinion, would be an improvement. And if it needs more work, then it needs more work. But I think this is substantially better than what's in the code today.
The section of code that I was citing is 1240.080. It says parking not to obstruct traffic. No person shall park any vehicle upon a street in such a manner or under such conditions as to leave available less than 12 feet of the width of the roadway for free movement of vehicular traffic. Our friends at NDOT Enforcement have been citing people for illegally parking when they are parking on a street that has a double solid yellow line where the parked vehicle forces another driver to pass illegally by having to cross that double solid yellow line. I have also had hub requests that have been generated from MNPD to install parking signs where streets have a double solid yellow line and curb parking is occurring there, and it's requiring motorists to perform an illegal passing maneuver. So I place the signs to help educate people who wish to park there that they can't park there.
Go ahead.
I just had one more question, and that is, you know, I don't think under the present code this is allowed, and also under the new code it wouldn't be allowed, but we do know that some of our bus drivers are parking their buses on metro streets overnight, and they're doing this routinely, and generally they're doing this, you know, with not causing any problems with neighbors or having any complaints. Is there, can NDOT, because y'all can permit someone to park a vehicle that's not, you know, allowed to be parked on the street, is there any way that we could do some outreach or partnership with MNPS just to make sure that bus drivers know that there's a way, if they are one of those folks who, and I don't want to blow up anybody's spot or anything, but if you drive around a little bit, you'll probably see some at night, that there's a way for them to approach y'all and get, you know, a permit. That's a difficult job, and I think if we were making people have to take additional trips each day just to do their routes, they might be disinclined to do that important job. So I just want to make sure that there's a way for the bus drivers to be aware that they can get a permit from y'all to be allowed to do that and not ever run into any issues with.
I was just told we have a monthly meeting with MNPS, and then I also want to point out that I think really the first sentence in the definitions is allowing to obtain a permit if it's, I'm sorry, it's not the second sentence. Here, I'm sorry, B1 says, unless otherwise authorized by a valid permit issued by National Department of Transportation. So this code will allow for that to happen, and then throughout that outreach we could
just a little bit of corrective outreach, just if we can just get that information to them and just kind of socialize it so people know that if that's something that they're going to be doing, that there is a path to doing so legally and without issues. Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I get the idea of having a permit, but what permit do we have available that would allow for a bus to park there overnight beyond just a daily permit?
We currently don't. We have 2 bus parking permits located near the Country Music Hall of Fame that is signed as such, so this would need to be something new.
Okay. Yeah.
And Oldham, thank you. You approved a couple of months ago the first ever bus parking here in Nashville. I don't think that addresses some residents who might have a bus to park in front of their property, but we are now moving buses as much as possible and providing free permit for free parking for buses on Oldham Street, which allows for 10 to 15 buses to park free of charge as long as they need to. And we take, by that, we're taking the load from downtown and moving them to Oldham.
I understand the need to try to clean this up a bit. I feel like this doesn't really get to the solve, just from the stance of if I, without a commercial driver's license, can drive up to something that's class 6, is that right? Class 5. 26,000 pounds is class 5. I can't understand what this is trying to tell me.
The CDL is going to be a whole different flow chart than this.
Well, so a CDL is based on the size of the
Correct.
vehicle, right? So
Yes.
it is 26,001 or more pounds is a Class A.
Yep.
So, I think that if you're able to just jump in a truck of whatever size and drive it, that feels like something we should allow to park on the streets as long as it's parked safely, without having to go through a process of getting a permit to do so.
I think you get into the different levels of CDL too. You got the Class B CDLs that are the buses that are going to be way over 26,000 pounds. And then some of the other ones there where if it certain materials, the weight goes a different way. So I don't know if the CDL part would be a way that we could regulate it within the parking version of it.
I mean, this item currently is, we're just suggesting the permit piece. I mean, right now, this has nothing to do with permits, correct? Just for point of clarification. Okay.
And I also wanted to make sure that I mentioned, this revision is tailored to where we are able to enforce if there's a safety issue or there's a concern that comes from the public. We are not going to be driving around looking for violations of trucks parked in front of a house, but if you get a call request or hub request and it's a safety issue or somebody's driveway is blocked or it's a visibility issue, then we have to have something that we can cite upon that also doesn't have the weight limitations which currently the code has. So we have our hands tied and we can help if we want to help. So this is not perfect. I don't think anything ever will be perfect. This is as close as we can get right now.
Chairperson.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to speak to Commissioner Kornutick's comment about, where do we draw the line, sort of. And, when I was looking at the initial bill as filed, my read was, let's bump it up to Class 3 and include Class 3. But this goes as high as 4, so I think it's going to cover like a lot of like typical stuff. I think, you're correct. I mean, there's gray area. I'd rather not have gray area, but I'm not super clear on a way to get rid of the gray area in this case. Also, I just want to note, when we start talking about classes, it's very confusing because I'm glad that y'all specifically called out US DOT classifications because there are a number of different schemes for classification of different vehicles, and it's important that we at least highlight the one that we are counting on here. So thanks for that clarification.
Any other questions? Legal?
Chair, I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that there are 2 ordinances to be voted on today. Is everyone clear on that? Okay, one is BL 2025-956 as submitted to council by Council Member Ellis, and then the one before you is the one that NDOT is proposing that you recommend to council instead of the bill BL 2025-956. And I believe the BL 2025-956 was emailed to you with your staff analysis. But I don't think it's, oh, do you have it there? Okay, good, great.
Any other questions? Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I will.
Oh, sorry. When you make your motion, we just need to be sure that we want the language in C2 to be included in the highlighted area of B3.
C2 into B3.
Yes.
And they have to be separate motions? So we're doing
No, you
two
can do it
bills?
all in one.
So I'm going to propose a combined motion, and if we want to do something different, then we can. So I'm going to move that we make no recommendation on the ordinance as initially filed, but on NDOT's substitute ordinance, which is before us, we recommend that Metro Council adopt and approve that. with the change that the language in C2 is added to B3 for clarity.
Perfect. Second?
Second.
Any questions and comments on the motion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Commissioner, Councilmember, could you explain the difference between no recommendation versus disapproving?
We can make a separate motion. It's the easiest way for the motion. If you'd like to handle them separately, we can.
I'm referring to no recommendation. I thought I heard the motion is to have no recommendation on substitute ordinance be the one that was presented by Councilmember Ellis.
I did that for expediency's sake. If you'd prefer we make a recommendation on the bill as filed, we can also do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I would suggest that you maybe make a recommendation, since it was referred by the clerk to the Traffic and Parking Commission to make a recommendation. And I understand the need for efficiency. I appreciate that. But because the clerk sent it here, I think it might be prudent to make a formal recommendation one way or the other on BL
So he said that-
2025-956.
So the motion was to recommend accepting what was submitted by the council member, and then also recommended accepting the substitute with the change of the language from, that's not what he said? Sorry.
Can I make a motion to amend the council member's motion?
Yes.
For 7.4, the Metro Council ordinance requested by the clerk's office, make a motion for disapproval. And for 7.4.1, the recommendation for the substitute ordinance in front of us, I'd make a motion to approve.
With the changes.
With the changes.
Yes.
Second.
It's been first and second. Any questions or comments on the motion?
Just a point of clarification.
Sure.
So they both read, the headers on both read the same on what was presented to us, if that makes a difference. But they both say substitute ordinance.
174 and 1741.
Ordinance, the number is the same?
I would
Oh,
defer.
the agenda item, so can we just put that in the record?
Can we defer to the
Oh, he did?
administrative
Okay.
pieces be handled? Any clarifications around? Anyway,
Chair, I believe the commissioner's motion did reference the agenda item,
okay.
so I think it was clear on the record.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
It has passed. Appreciate the time and energy on this. We'll move on to new business, 8.0. 8.1, report on new valet operator licenses. Mr. Mateus, you have the floor.
Just real quick, one of the reports that I'm presenting here today is a company formerly known as Volunteer Valet. This is a simple name change. So this is an approved and licensed operator. They're moving forward, going to be known as Brookstead Parking Company. Wanted to bring this to your attention. All the permits that they will be applying for will be under this name as well. And we have a new valet operator in the city. Their name is Tri-State Parking. We went through the process, the interview. They seem great, so we'll obviously go through the process of having an eye on them for a little bit to see if they are a good partner in the city, and then report if that would be not the case.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner?
So the one that's going through the name change, volunteer to Brookstead?
Yes, sir.
There's been no negative complaints against them over the last year?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to item 8.2, election of Traffic and Parking Commissioner, Chair and Vice Chair. Legal, would you remind, this is the first time for 90% of the members, just reminding them of the rules before we move forward.
Sure. Sure. So the process, you can begin with the chair and you can ask for nominations and people can move nominations. And once you have them all before you, then you can vote on each one. And then you can move on to the vice chair and follow the same process.
So for chair, do I need to pass leadership to the vice chair, or can I preside over the chairman's election?
I think probably it would be proper to have the vice chair preside over that.
Okay.
That's the point.
Go ahead.
Do we have any nominations for chair?
I would like to nominate our current chair, Brandon Mason, for chair.
Second.
Are there any other nominations?
No.
Okay, it's been moved in second that our current chair stays in that role. Ready for the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is passed.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I was looking at the role earlier, and I started in 2021, and it is kind of awkward to be the oldest tenured member on this chair or on this committee or commission, but I have enjoyed it and appreciate staff's work. We have improved leaps and bounds with our decorum just on the commission, how we handle items. I feel like everybody here is respected. I feel like everybody here has passion, and I am humbled and proud to be able to be chairman for another term, so I appreciate everyone. We will open the floor to nominations for vice chair.
I would like to nominate our Vice Chair Gibbs for Vice Chair.
Any other nominations? All in, do we have a motion to nominate Vice Chair Gibbs? So moved. Second? Second. It's been first and second. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You're elected to another term.
Congratulations.
I will say, when I first called him and requested a year ago, I think I got 5 no's before we got to a yes. So I'm grateful that he's voluntarily jumping on board again with us again. We'll move on to item for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.